Hey folks, welcome back to another video. The year is almost behind us and it's almost Hogmanay, almost a New Year's Day. And since it is New Year, we're going to do a Scottish classic. We're going to make steak pie. At New Year, steak pie is made in many households across Scotland and the UK. Traditionally it would be the centrepiece of your table and you'd have it with mashed potatoes and peas, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. So please follow along with this Scottish classic, and the ingredients will be down in the description below. Welcome to print them out and give this a go yourself. So let's get fired in. While I'm getting this onion cut up here and diced, let me know in the comments if you guys do anything traditionally for New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And this is always a favourite in our home. My gran would usually make one for anybody that came round. Quite common for people to come and knock on your door on New Year's Eve just after midnight or even the next day. Okay, we'll set this off to the side for a second and then I'll try and get some of this meat cut up a bit more. I'm going to put this other chopping board down on this wooden one because I don't want to have to super clean it before I do the pastry. I just like them in tiny little cube size, just like that. I don't know if you can see that. Tiny little cubes, just like that. Hope you guys all had a wonderful New Year. If you're watching this after New Year, or if you had a good year, and I wish you all the best for the coming year. I remember as a boy I used to spend a lot of New Year's at my grandparents' house. And in Scotland, New Year is called Hogmanay, and there'd be a thing after the bells, which is midnight, called first footing. First footing is when you welcome the first people into your house after midnight. Traditionally they'll come in with, well, they better come in with some alcohol, or they would come in with something to eat, or maybe even a lump of coal. My grandparents had a coal fire, and some people would bring a lump of coal as a sign of best wishes and good luck for the coming year by putting some coal on your fire. In fact, there's a saying in Scotland that people say to each other at New Year, and it goes like this: Lang may your lum reek. Lang may your lum reek basically means I wish you well, I wish you good health, and I wish your fire always burns strongly and the smoke comes out of your chimney. Lang may your lum reek. Lum is a chimney. But now that I'm in America, I don't do so much of that anymore. And having kids here, there's really no need to be staying up to God knows whatever. But I do hope my kids follow on with the tradition of making steak pie at New Year, because, well, it's delicious. Okay, we'll get all this cut up here and then we'll get it on the pan. Coming along nicely here, just get it all browned. Once it's browned, we'll set it off to the side. As I said, we'll get the onions and the gravy mix going. Okay, I'm going to turn down this down a little bit for a second and transfer all this meat into this bowl here. And then we'll get the onions going. We're just going to leave the liquid that's in there in the pan to cook the onions in. We're just going to saute these until they're soft and golden. Okay, this is coming along nicely now. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to add a tiny little bit of beef stock, just like that. Turn it down a wee bit, mix that in. Then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of flour and slowly coat the onion with the flour. Let me grab this flour here. 1, 2. Mix that into the onion, get it all mixed in there. Hopefully it doesn't clump up too much. Okay, I'm going to pour in the rest of the beef stock. There we go. Give that mix in for a second. Next up, I'm going to add the meat back to the pan here. Next in, we're going to add the salt and pepper, dried thyme and the Worcestershire sauce, and then we'll cover on a medium heat for about an hour and a half. I think I said before, this is a pre-made filling, so we cook the filling completely first before we add it to the dish and put the pie top on. Okay, it's getting nice and thick in there. I'm going to put the lid on this and let it simmer for about an hour or an hour and a half, just until everything is all melded together and tender. Okay, this is done now. We're going to set this to the side to cool down a little bit, and we're also going to allow this puff pastry sheet to thaw a little bit before we put it on top of the pie. You want it to thaw just for about 30 minutes until you can easily open the puff pastry sheet without it cracking. This might be a little bit small for the pie dish that I have, but we'll figure something out and see how this works. Now, while we're waiting for the filling to cool down and for this puff pastry to thaw out, I'm just going to make some shortcrust pastry to do the other pie that I was thinking about doing. So I'll be taking a bowl here with 1 cup of butter. Obviously I'm going to unwrap this first before throwing it in here. There's half a cup. Actually, you know what, before I put this butter in here, I should probably cut it up into little cubes. It will make it easier to work with. So let's cube this butter. Not using the KitchenAid mixer today, just doing it quickly with my hands in the bowl. Okay, 1 cup of butter, cut up into cubes. Then we need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. 1, 2, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Just that. I'm going to slowly start working this butter in with the flour, squeezing your hands through all that butter until all the butter is gone, mixed into the flour, and it feels like kind of like breadcrumbs. Once we've done that, we'll slowly add we'll add a tablespoon of water at a time, just until it forms the pastry. The problem is you don't want to add too much water. You just want to add a little bit at a time to give it that short crust texture once we make it into the pie. So we'll get busy doing this while the filling cools down and the good old puff pastry melts or thaws just enough for us to open it up. Like I said, it might not fit on the rectangle pie dish I've got, but we'll put some flour down on the chopping board here and we'll see if we can roll it out a little bit thinner so we can stretch it across on top of the pie. Okay, we're about to add the water to this, and I just realised something. This puff pastry sheet isn't really going to be big enough for the dish that I was planning on using. So I've got another dish here for the oven. I'm going to use this one, and that should work perfect for the size of this puff pastry dish, but it's still thawing. Probably needs another 5 or 10 minutes until I can open it comfortably. But now that I've mixed all this flour and butter into a kind of breadcrumb texture, I'm going to slowly add about 4 tablespoons of water. And to be honest, it's times like this that I could really do with an extra hand. Oh look, what's this we have here? Oh, thank you, wonderful. Well, wouldn't you know it, I had an extra hand there. With about 5 minutes left before this puff pastry is ready, now would be a good time to preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Okay, we're going to wrap this in cling film, put it in the fridge for 30 minutes, and in the meantime we'll spoon this filling into the dish and we'll get the puff pastry top on the first pie. Okay, once we've found the right pie dish size that you can put your filling in, that enables you to have enough filling left over for another shortcrust pie, you fill that dish and then add the puff pastry top, like so. Cut around the edges, leaving a little bit of an overhang, and just crimp down the sides to form a seal. And the last thing to do will be to brush this with a beaten egg, so that it will be a nice golden brown when we take it out the oven. Last thing to do before putting it in the oven is make 2 slits right in the middle, just so the steam can escape. Okay, the oven is ready. I'm going to put this in for about 30 minutes until the top is golden brown. While the rectangle, well, the large rectangle, which then became a square, which then became a smaller rectangle, traditional steak pie is in the oven, I'm going to use the shortcrust pastry we put in the refrigerator 30 minutes ago. And I was going to make, remember, I was going to make it into this size pie, but obviously I'm having to adapt to the amount of filling I have left. So I'm just going to make some smaller personal size steak pies to go with the traditional top only puff pastry steak pie. Okay, I'm going to get this rolled out, cut it into little shapes, put the filling in, put the top on, spread some butter, spread some egg yolk on it, poke a hole in the top, and get them in the oven too. I think we might manage to get 6 pie bases out of this one. Any of you watched a video from a few days ago or last week when I was making mincemeat pies, you might remember this little tin. And if you didn't watch my mincemeat pie video from last week, then please check out the description just up about here, and you can find out how to make mincemeat pies. Made all these. I'm going to fill these with the rest of the filling. I'm going to use a little bit of water around the side just to make the pastry base stick to the top. It turns out I've got a little tiny wee bit more pastry left and a tiny bit more of the filling, so I'm going to see what I've got laying around that I can use to make up another pie type of thing, or maybe a small casserole dish or something. I'll see what I've got. But we don't want to waste any of this stuff, that's for sure. And we'll get that in the oven once the other one's ready to come out. Here we have a little dish that we're going to use. Maybe if we had 2 of these, that would probably be good. I have a little helper in the background helping me out, supplying me with extra dishes. I know my name's AyeHe-Will, but we can call her AyeHe-Will. Thanks, honey. There we go, that's not too bad for the leftover pastry. There we go, just the perfect amount. Almost forgot. Water. Okay, as soon as the puff pastry steak pie is out the oven, we'll get these ones in, and then that'll be done. Time to clean up. There you have it, folks. Traditional steak pie at the new year with some mashed potatoes and some peas. Look at that, looks absolutely beautiful. There's the puff pastry crust. Now the other ones are, the short crust pastry options are cooking in the oven. But I'm just going to take this opportunity to wish you all a happy new year, a prosperous new year, and please like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more videos in 2025. But I better get this served up because I've got some people here that are hungry. Catch you in the next one, guys.